Hi, my name is Mitch Mills. I'm a safety manager at Kern River, and today we're going to be talking about trenching and excavation, their hazards and safe work practices to protect you and your team members. According to the Department of Labor Statistics, 56 fatalities occur each year from workers exposed to trench hazards. Let's first discuss excavation. Anytime you score the earth with a shovel, you are excavating. The excavation could be a hole dug to place a utility pole, a trench, or any small opening in the earth. This also includes the placement of ground rods and Christie boxes. These activities require careful pre-planned work that involve job walks, scoping, permits, and marking the earth. When the activity does take place, repeat assessment of the excavation with metal detectors is conducted. Competent persons are required to be on site during the excavation. What exactly is a competent person? OSHA describes this person as someone who is capable of identifying existing and predictable hazards in the surroundings or working conditions which are unsanitary, hazardous, or dangerous to employees, and who has authorization to take prompt corrective measures to eliminate them. When that is applied to trenching, a competent person is responsible for identifying trench hazards, conducting daily inspections, coordinating the emergency response plan, and be knowledgeable about soils, protective systems, and OSHA rules around trenching. Let's define an excavation. According to California excavation law, it is any operation in which earth, rock, or other material in the ground is moved, removed, or otherwise displaced by means of tools, equipment, or explosives in any of the following ways: grading, trenching, digging, ditching, drilling, augering, tunneling, scraping, cable or pipe plowing and driving, or any other way. A trench is a narrow excavation that is deeper than it is wide and no greater than 15 feet wide at the bottom. Trench inspections are very important and should be done before work starts each day, throughout the shift, and after any rain or water truck activity. If there are any indication of a failure in the protective system, evidence of possible cave-ins, or potentially hazardous atmospheres, remove any team members from the trench immediately. Before any excavation activities are performed, a critical step must be completed. Contact must be made with Dig Alert at least 2 working days prior to beginning any digging or excavation work. Dig Alert is an on-call notification center that supports all of Southern California. There are 2 numbers to contact when calling in your Dig Alert. It depends on what lease you are working on. If you are in San Ardo or Coalinga, you will call 1-800-642-2444. If you're at any other lease, you will use 1-800-227-2600. Member utilities have 2 full working days to mark their lines, and you may not perform any excavations during that time. It is critical that you accurately outline your excavation area, show color-coded paint, stakes, or flags. You must have the permit number issued by Dig Alert in the USA Dig form under the permit section of the JSA on your iPad before you begin any excavations. Entry and exit points should be set up during the use of a trench, and they must be within 25 feet of any team member while working in the trench. These exit points can be a ladder, stairway, or slope ramps. It is important to remember that any trench greater than 4 feet can be considered a confined space. Trenches greater than 5 feet require shoring and notification to OSHA. There are many hazards around trenching that you need to know. Cave-ins are perhaps the most feared hazards, but other potentially fatal hazards do exist. They include asphyxiation due to lack of oxygen in a confined space, inhalation of toxic fumes, drowning, and electrocution or explosions can occur when contact is made with underground utilities. Common causes of these hazards exist because there was no protective system in place, failure to inspect the trench, unsafe spoil placement, and unsafe entry and exit points. Let's cover some of the hazards in more detail. Cave-ins happen when soil or rocks fall into the excavation and can happen when the bottom of the trench wall fails because the soil is too dense or heavy. Hazardous atmospheres are caused by excavations near sewers, landfills, and other potentially hazardous locations. It is important to make sure that the atmosphere in the excavation is tested when it is greater than 4 feet deep. Falling material and equipment is another hazard when working with excavations. To avoid this type of hazard, keep any material or equipment at least 2 feet from the edge of an excavation and use retaining devices if needed. Excavations near adjacent structures can cause hazards by endangering the stability of buildings, walls, or poles. You can use shoring, bracing, or underpinning to ensure the stability of a nearby structure or pole. Water accumulation is another hazard commonly found during excavation work. It is important to take precautions and use special shoring or shielding and a water removal system to reduce this type of hazard. Soil can also come under stress. Be on the lookout for signs of soil distress in places near vibrating machinery, moving or heavy loads, rain or seeping water, and dry hot weather. Trenching protective systems are very important as a way to reduce some of the hazards around excavation activities. Shoring is a type of protective system that uses support walls to prevent cave-ins. These are usually built in place and designed by an engineer. Shielding can withstand the forces of a cave-in and protect a team member within the trench. Trench boxes are often designed to be stacked and used with sloping and benching. Sloping is achieved by angling the walls at an incline, and benching is done in a series of steps to angle the walls of a trench. The type of soil in the area will determine which angle of slope or bench should be used. Soil is classified into different types, and each type requires a certain protective system. The stability is affected by grain size. The smaller the better. The water saturation, the cohesiveness, which is how well the soil sticks together, and unconfined compressive strength, or UCS. This tells us how easily the soil will shear. It is important to have a professional engineer assess the soil types and select the best type of shoring based on the soil type. Based on the soil type, it is recommendation that Type A soil, a slope ratio of 0.75 to 1 be used. In Type B soil, a slope ratio of 1 to 1 should be used, and in Type C soil, a slope ratio of 1.5 to 1. It is also important to mention that benching is not allowed with Type C soil, and most of the San Joaquin Valley area has Type C soil. Good excavation practices should always be a top priority. Some of these practices are keeping any trenching activities at least 10 feet from underground utilities. During your excavation, if red slurry, silver, or red burial tape is discovered, immediately stop work. These are signs of underground electrical. When spoils are created, make sure they are at least 3 feet from the edge of any trenches or holes to minimize the chances of soil and rocks falling into the trench. Utilize trench plates for safe crossing of trenches and holes. Never jump over trenches, no matter how narrow they may be. If there will be open trenches while you're away from the area, delineate the trenches with cones and caution tape to communicate to others that there are hazards in that area. Always consider your safe distances as a spotter during excavation. Utilize high visibility vests, keep a good line of sight with the heavy equipment operator, and do not enter the swing radius of any heavy equipment on site. Trenching and excavation is an important part of what we do. The safety of your team members while performing an excavation and working in and around them needs to be a top priority. By following the correct procedures and understanding and identifying the hazards associated with trenching and excavation, everyone on your team can work safely. If you have any questions regarding this topic, make sure to get with your site safety professional. They will be glad to help.